Hello and welcome to Read to a Child's remote read aloud program. My name is Paul Lamoureux and I'm the CEO of Read to a Child. Read to a Child is a national literacy and mentoring nonprofit that fosters a love of reading, improves literacy skills, and empowers underserved children by inspiring adults to read aloud to them regularly. Research shows that reading aloud to children is the single most important activity for eventual success in reading. In Read to a Child's flagship program, the Lunchtime Reading Program, an adult is partnered one-on-one with an at-risk elementary school student for a weekly read aloud experience during the child's lunch break. The relationship typically lasts for the entire school year and often extends for multiple years to the end of the fourth grade. Read to a Child's Lunchtime Reading Program utilizes nearly 2,000 community and corporate volunteers in the metropolitan areas of Boston, Detroit, Hartford, Los Angeles, and Miami. Now, however, we are extending our programs online to children remotely using Zoom. It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest reader, R.J. Palacio. R.J. Palacio is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, Wonder, which has sold over 8 million copies in the US and over 15 million copies worldwide. Wonder's message of kindness inspired the Choose Kind movement and has been embraced by readers young and old around the world. It also inspired a major motion picture starring Julia Roberts, Owen Wilson, and Jacob Tremblay. Palacio's other best-selling books include 365 Days of Wonder, Mr. Brown's Book of Precepts, the picture book, We're All Wonders, and the just-published graphic novel, White Bird. A first-generation American who grew up the daughter of Colombian immigrants in Queens, New York, RJ now lives in Brooklyn, with her husband, 2 sons, and 2 dogs. She studied illustration at the Parsons School of Design and spent many years working in book publishing, returning to writing full-time. Welcome, RJ.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I am so thrilled to be here and speaking with everyone live, kind of, via Zoom. It's really my privilege to be able to do this. I love connecting with kids. I love reading aloud. I loved being read to aloud when I was young. And, I wrote Wonder, never, ever knowing that it would become as popular as it ended up becoming. So every time I get asked to read Wonder aloud, I get a little thrill because it feels like a little miracle for me. This was just something that I did, and when I wrote it really from the heart, not knowing whether it would get published or whether it would find a readership. So it's my pleasure to be able to read these, Wonder aloud to whoever wants to hear it.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So whenever you're ready.
That's great. Well, first of all, what I would do is just start from the beginning and read as much as I could read in the time allowed. And then you and I, we're going to have some questions and answers, I guess, afterwards. So I'm going to start on page 3, Ordinary, the very first chapter, Ordinary. I know I'm not an ordinary kid. I mean, sure, I do ordinary things. I eat ice cream, I ride my bike, I play ball, I have an Xbox. Stuff like that makes me ordinary, I guess. And I feel ordinary inside. But I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away screaming in playgrounds. I know ordinary kids don't get stared at wherever they go. If I found a magic lamp and I could have one wish, I would wish that I had a normal face that no one ever noticed at all. I would wish that I could walk down the street without people seeing me and then doing that look away thing. Here's what I think. The only reason I'm not ordinary is that no one else sees me that way. But I'm kind of used to how I look by now. I know how to pretend I don't see the faces people make. We've all gotten pretty good at that sort of thing. Me, Mom and Dad, Via. Actually, I take that back. Via's not so good at it. She can get really annoyed when people do something rude. Like, for instance, one time in the playground, some older kids made some noises. I don't even know what the noises were exactly because I didn't hear them myself, but Via heard them, and she just started yelling at the kids. That's the way she is. I'm not that way. Via doesn't see me as ordinary. She says she does, but if I were ordinary, she wouldn't feel like she needs to protect me as much. And Mom and Dad don't see me as ordinary either. They see me as extraordinary. I think the only person in the world who realizes how ordinary I am is me. My name is August, by the way. I won't describe what I look like. Whatever you're thinking, it's probably worse. Why I didn't go to school. Next week, I start 5th grade. Since I've never been to a real school before, I am pretty much totally and completely petrified. People think I haven't gone to school because of the way I look, but it's not that. It's because of all the surgeries I've had. 27 since I was born. The bigger ones happened before I was even 4 years old, so I don't remember those. But I've had 2 or 3 surgeries every year since then, some big, some small. And because I'm little for my age and I have some other medical mysteries that doctors never really figured out, I used to get sick a lot. That's why my parents decided it was better if I didn't go to school. I'm much stronger now, though. The last surgery I had was 8 months ago, and I probably won't have to have any more for another couple of years. Mom homeschools me. She used to be a children's book illustrator. She draws really great fairies and mermaids. Her boy stuff isn't so hot, though. She once tried to draw me a Darth Vader, but it ended up looking like some weird mushroom-shaped robot. I haven't seen her draw anything in a long time. I think she's too busy taking care of me and Via. I can't say I always wanted to go to school because that wouldn't be exactly true. What I wanted was to go to school, but only if I could be like every other kid going to school. Have lots of friends and hang out after school and stuff like that. I have a few really good friends now. Christopher is my best friend, followed by Zachary and Alex. We've known each other since we were babies, and since they've always known me the way I am, they're used to me. When we were little, we used to have playdates all the time. But then Christopher moved to Bridgeport in Connecticut. That's more than an hour away from where I live in North River Heights, which is at the top tip of Manhattan. And Zachary and Alex started going to school. It's funny, even though Christopher's the one who moved far away, I still see him more than I see Zachary and Alex. They have all these new friends now. If we bump into each other on the street, they're so nice to me. They say hello. I have other friends too, but not as good as Christopher and Zach and Alex. For instance, Zach and Alex always invited me to their birthday parties when we were little. But Joel and Eamon and Gabe never did. Emma invited me once, but I haven't seen her in a long time. And of course, I always go to Christopher's birthday. Maybe I'm making too big a deal about birthday parties. How I came to life. I like when Mom tells this story because it makes me laugh so much. It's not funny in the way a joke is funny, but when Mom tells it, Via and I just start cracking up. So, when I was in my mom's stomach, no one had any idea I would come out looking the way I look. Mom had had Via 4 years before, and that had been such a walk in the park, Mom's expression, that there was no reason to run any special tests. About 2 months before I was born, the doctors realized there was something wrong with my face, but they didn't think it was going to be bad. They told Mom and Dad I had a cleft palate and some other stuff going on. They called it small anomalies. There were 2 nurses in the delivery room the night I was born. One was very nice and sweet. The other one, Mom said, did not seem at all nice or sweet. She had very big arms, and here comes the funny part. She kept farting. Like, she'd bring Mom some ice chips and then fart. She'd check Mom's blood pressure and fart. Mom says it was unbelievable because the nurse never even said, "Excuse me." Meanwhile, Mom's regular doctor wasn't on duty that night, so Mom got stuck with this cranky kid doctor she and Dad nicknamed Doogie after some old TV show or something. They didn't actually call him that to his face. But Mom says that even though everyone in the room was kind of grumpy, Dad kept making her laugh all night long. When I came out of Mom's stomach, she said the whole room got very quiet. Mom didn't even get a chance to look at me because the nice nurse immediately rushed me out of the room. Dad was in such a hurry to follow her that he dropped the video camera, which broke into a million pieces. And then Mom got very upset and tried to get out of bed to see where they were going. But the farting nurse put her very big arms on Mom to keep her down in the bed. They were practically fighting because Mom was hysterical and the farting nurse was yelling at her to stay calm. And then they both started screaming for the doctor. But guess what? He had fainted right on the floor. So when the farting nurse saw that he had fainted, she started pushing him with her foot to get him to wake up, yelling at him the whole time. What kind of doctor are you? What kind of doctor are you? Get up, get up. And then all of a sudden, she let out the biggest, loudest, smelliest fart in the history of farts. Mom thinks it was actually the fart that finally woke the doctor up. Anyway, when Mom tells the story, she acts out all the parts, including the farting noises, and it is so funny. Mom says the farting nurse turned out to be a very nice woman. She stayed with Mom the whole time, didn't leave her side, even after Dad came back and the doctors told them how sick I was. Mom remembers exactly what the nurse whispered in her ear when the doctor told her I probably wouldn't live through the night. Everyone born of God overcometh the world. And the next day, after I had lived through the night, it was that nurse who held Mom's hand when they brought her to meet me for the first time. Mom says by then they had told her all about me. She had been preparing herself for the seeing of me. But she says that when she looked down into my tiny, mushed-up face for the first time, all she could see was how pretty my eyes were. Mom is beautiful, by the way. And Dad is handsome. Thea is pretty, in case you were wondering. Christopher's house. I was really bummed when Christopher moved away 3 years ago. We were both around 7 then. We used to spend hours playing with our Star Wars action figures and dueling with our lightsabers. I miss that. Last spring, we drove over to Christopher's house in Bridgeport. Me and Christopher were looking for snacks in the kitchen, and I heard Mom talking to Lisa, Christopher's mom, about my going to school in the fall. I had never, ever heard her mention school before. What are you talking about? I said. Mom looked surprised, like she hadn't meant for me to hear that. You should tell him what you've been thinking, Isabel, Dad said. He was on the other side of the living room talking to Christopher's dad. We should talk about this later, said Mom. No, I want to know what you were talking about, I answered. Don't you think you're ready for school, Augie? Mom said. No, I said. I don't either, said Dad. Then that's it. Case closed, I said, shrugging, and I sat in her lap like I was a baby. I just think you need to learn more than I can teach you, Mom said. I mean, come on, Augie, you know how bad I am at fractions. What school? I said. I already felt like crying. Beecher Prep, right by us. Wow, that's a great school, Augie, said Lisa, patting my knee. Why not be a school, I said. That's too big, Mom answered. I don't think that would be a good fit for you. I don't want to, I said. I admit, I made my voice sound a little babyish. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, Dad said, coming over and lifting me out of Mom's lap. He carried me over to sit on his lap on the other side of the sofa. We won't make you do anything you don't want to do. But it would be good for him, Nate, Mom said. Not if he doesn't want to, answered Dad, looking at me. Not if he's not ready. I saw Mom look at Lisa, who reached over and squeezed her hand. You guys will figure it out, she said to Mom. You always have. Let's just talk about it later, said Mom. I could tell she and Dad were going to get in a fight about it. I wanted Dad to win the fight, though a part of me knew that Mom was right. And the truth is, she really was terrible at fractions. Driving. It was a long drive home. I fell asleep in the back seat like I always do, my head on Via's lap like she was my pillow, a towel wrapped around the seatbelt so I wouldn't drool all over her. Via fell asleep too, and Mom and Dad talked quietly about grown-up things I didn't care about. I don't know how long I was sleeping, but when I woke up, there was a full moon outside the car window. It was a purple night, and we were driving on a highway full of cars. And then I heard Mom and Dad talking about me. We can't keep protecting him, Mom whispered to Dad, who was driving. We can't just pretend he's going to wake up tomorrow And this isn't going to be his reality because it is Nate. And we have to help him to learn to deal with it. We can't just keep avoiding situations that. So sending him off to middle school like a lamb to the slaughter, Dad answered angrily. But he didn't even finish his sentence because he saw me in the mirror looking up. What's a lamb to the slaughter? I asked sleepily. Go back to sleep, Augie, Dad said softly. Everyone will stare at me at school, I said, suddenly crying. Honey, Mom said. She turned around in the front seat and put her hand on my hand. You know, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But we spoke to the principal there and told him about you, and he really wants to meet you. What did you tell him about me? Oh, how funny you are and how kind and smart. When I told him you read Dragon Rider when you were 6, he was like, wow, I have to meet this kid. Did you tell him anything else? I said. Mom smiled at me. Her smile kind of hugged me. I told him about all your surgeries and how brave you are, she said. So he knows what I look like? I asked. Well, we brought pictures from last summer in Montauk, Dad said. We showed him pictures of the whole family and that great shot of you holding that flounder on the boat. You were there too? I have to admit, I felt a little disappointed that he was part of this. We both talked to him, yes, Dad said. He's a really nice man. You would like him, Mom added. Suddenly, it felt like they were on the same side. Wait, so when did you meet him? I said. He took us on a tour of the school last year, said Mom. Last year? I said. So you've been thinking about this for a whole year and you didn't tell me? We didn't know if you'd even get in, Augie, answered Mom. It's a very hard school to get into. There's a whole admissions process. I didn't see the point in telling you and having you get all worked up about it unnecessarily. But you're right, Augie. We should have told you when we found out last month that you got in, said Dad. In hindsight, sighed Mom. Yes, I guess. Did that lady who came to the house that time have something to do with this, I said. The one that gave me the test? Yes, actually, said Mom, looking guilty. Yes. You told me it was an IQ test, I said. I know, well, that was a white lie, she answered. It was a test you needed to take to get into the school. You did very well on it, by the way. So you lied, I said. A white lie, but yes. Sorry, she said, trying to smile. When I didn't smile back, she turned around in her seat and faced forward. What's a lamb to the slaughter? I said. Mom sighed and gave Daddy a look. I shouldn't have said that, Dad said, looking at me in the rearview mirror. It's not true. Here's the thing. Mommy and I love you so much. We just want to protect you any way we can. It's just sometimes we want to do it in different ways. I don't want to go to school, I answered, folding my arms. It would be good for you, Augie, said Mom. Maybe I'll go next year, I answered, looking out the window. This year would be better, Augie, said Mom. You know why? Because you'll be going into 5th grade, and that's the first year of middle school for everyone. You won't be the only new kid. I'll be the only new kid who looks like me, I said. I'm not going to say it won't be a big challenge for you because you know better than that, she answered. But it'll be good for you, Augie. You'll make lots of friends, and you'll learn things you'd never learn with me. She turned in her seat again and looked at me. When we took the tour, you know what they had in their science lab? A little baby chick that was just hatching out of its egg. It was so cute. Augie, it actually kind of reminded me of you when you were a little baby with those big brown eyes of yours. I usually love when they talk about when I was a baby. Sometimes I want to curl up into a tiny little ball and let them hug me and kiss me all over. I miss being a baby, not knowing stuff. But I wasn't in the mood for that now. I don't want to go, I said. How about this? Can you at least meet Mr. Tushman before making up your mind, Mom asked. Mr. Tushman, I said. He's the principal, answered Mom. Mr. Tushman, I repeated. I know, right? Dad answered, smiling and looking at me in the rearview mirror. Can you believe that name, Augie? I mean, who on earth would ever agree to have a name like Mr. Tushman? I smiled, even though I didn't want to let them see me smile. Dad was the one person in the world who could make me laugh no matter how much I did not want to laugh. That always made everyone laugh. Augie, you should go to that school just so you can hear his name said over the loudspeaker, Dad said excitedly. Can you imagine how funny that would be? Oh, hello, paging Mr. Tushman. He was using a fake high old lady voice. Hi, Mr. Tushman. I see you're running a little behind today. Did your car get rear-ended again? What a bum rap. I started laughing, not even because I thought he was being that funny, but because I wasn't in the mood to stay mad anymore. It could be worse, though, Dad continued in his normal voice. Mommy and I had a professor in college called Miss Butt. Mom was laughing now, too. Is that for real? I said. Roberta Butt, Mom answered, raising her hand as if to swear. Bobby Butt. She had huge cheeks, said Dad. Nate, said Mom. What? She had big cheeks is all I'm saying. Mom laughed and shook her head at the same time. Hey, I know, said Dad excitedly. Let's fix them up on a blind date. Can you imagine? Miss Butt, meet Mr. Tushman. Mr. Tushman, here's Miss Butt. They could get married and have a bunch of little tushies. Poor Mr. Tushman, answered Mom, shaking her head. Augie hasn't even met the man yet, Nate. Who's Mr. Tushman? Via said groggily. She had just woken up. He's the principal of my new school, I answered. And I think that's all we have time for today.
That is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can see all the kids across the country that are going to be so excited to read the next part of this, and the adventures in the school when Augie visits, that Absolutely. It's going to be great. Speaking of kids across the country, I have some questions from some kids across the country that I wanted to share with you and get some answers.
Awesome.
We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have schools in the greater Boston area, in Metro Detroit, in Miami, Los Angeles, and Hartford. The first question comes from greater Boston area, and it comes from the Madeline English School, which is in Everett, Massachusetts, the grade 4 classroom of Miss Travers, and is submitted by the student's name is Sasmik. The question is, what motivated you to write this book?
Ooh, that's a great question. First of all, hi, Sasmik. I was at an ice cream store with my 2 kids, and my younger son was about 3 years old at the time, and still in a stroller, and some people came and sat down next to us, and one of them, the person sitting directly next to me on the bench in front of the ice cream store, was a little girl who had a very, very severe facial difference. She looks very much the way I described Augie as looking in the book. And when my younger son looked at her, his reaction was he got a little afraid. He started to cry. And in my haste to sort of not let the little girl see his reaction to her face, we left the scene very quickly. And afterwards, that got me thinking a lot about what it must be like to face the world every day that doesn't quite know how to face you back, and what it must be like to be that person's mom and sister and friend, and also how kindness is just so needed in this world that I felt kind of angry at myself for my reaction leaving the scene so quickly. I wished afterward, of course, that I had the wherewithal to simply turn to the little girl and started talking to her and shown my son by my example that there was nothing to fear there. There's nothing to be afraid of. But, sometimes we don't know what to do in a situation. And that's really what got me thinking that whenever you don't know what to do in life, act with kindness and you'll never go wrong, So anyway, I started writing Wonder that very night. It was, it kind of just started coming to me.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Thank you.
Wow. That's wonderful. No pun intended. So the next, actually, I just see here, and this is something that's amazing. In Los Angeles, the Esperanza Elementary School, which is in downtown LA and part of the LA Unified School District, Apparently, 15 of their students, as well as parents and staff at the school, were filmed as part of the Wonder DVD Extra a few years back.
Oh, nice.
And the kids were asked questions primarily focused on the theme of kindness. So they have a real connection with Wonder. So to honor that amazing connection, I'm going to take the next 4 questions from the kids at the Esperanza. The first one is from Yanni. And it says, do you have a specific character in Wonder that you relate to the most?
In a way, when you're writing, all of your characters are kind of extensions of who you are, or based on people that you know, and so you have a really strong connection to all of them, and it's hard to choose. I would say that one of the characters that came easiest for me was Via. When I was writing Via, she just flowed. Like, I just knew that girl so well. And I never really stopped to think why that was until a good friend of mine who'd known me since I was little read the book. And she said, you realize you're Via, right? I'm like, what? No. She said, yeah, you were Via at 15. I'm like, oh my goodness. I guess in a way there's a lot. Yeah, that's probably true. So I guess Via is the character that I kind of found the easiest to write. But I would also say that Charlotte, who's sort of a minor character, is a character that I think I can relate to a lot. I think a lot of kids relate to Charlotte because they want to be like Summer. They want to be like Jack. But it's hard to be that courageous. It's hard to find that gumption, especially when you're in the 5th or 6th grade. And Charlotte, to me, epitomizes that child or that instinct, that the impulse to want to be nice, but not quite brave enough to sort of buck the system and do it. So Charlotte is another one that I can relate to a lot.
Fantastic. By the way, these questions are from Miss Huberger's 4th grade class. The next question from Maritza, I think you already answered earlier, which was what inspired you to write a book about kindness, which I think you covered very nicely with Sasmic's question as well.
Yeah.
So let's go to Frank. Frank wants to know, when you were writing Wonder, were there certain memories from when you were little that inspired certain parts of the book?
Yes, very much so. I mean, a lot of the book, a lot of the little sort of subplots and minor plot points that happen were drawn directly from life, either because I eavesdropped terribly on the lives of my kids and kind of put their little stories or things that happened to their friends or things that happened to the children of my friends. But one specific scene was definitely based on my childhood, and it's told from the point of view of Jack Will. He talks about finding a sled, an old beaten up sled one day while he's sledding in his neighborhood park. And he spends the entire weekend fixing up that sled because it's like a radio flyer and he doesn't have a lot of money. And so, he uses duct tape and he paints it. And he's really proud of how he's been able to fix up the sled. And he has a great sledding time on it the next day and whatever. And then they go back to school. And he overhears some friends talking about how they had discarded their old sled. It was their sled. And they were kind of making fun of this old sled and how someone had actually taken it. And anyway, Jack hears this and he feels really bad. And that exact thing had happened to me when I was in the 6th grade or 7th grade. I had found a sled in Casino Park in Flushing, Queens, and it was the exact same thing. It was a radio flyer. I could never afford a radio flyer. So I took it home and I, really spent the entire weekend fixing it up and painting it, and I named it. And then when I went to school that Monday, I remember hearing some people talking about having dumped their old sled, and I realized it was the sled that I'd found. And anyway, so yeah, that was a great question. Thank you.
Bringing you back. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know.
From Melody, did you ever show kindness to someone and stand up for them and then regret it because now the bully was being mean to you instead?
I don't remember specifically that ever happening. I'm sure it did. I'm always really careful to draw a distinction between acts of unkindness and bullying in a way. And I think that it's important to sort of see that sometimes there is a difference, because in acts of bullying, there's usually a disproportionate use of power. I mean, whereas acts of unkindness seem to happen more often, and are easier to sort of slough off, so I can remember a lot of times when, someone was unkind to me or a friend, and I would stick up for that friend, and then, have that person then say something unkind to me, certainly. It's not quite the same as bullying. I can't say I was ever thankfully bullied. And I haven't really experienced that kind of bullying myself. So I can't answer the question exactly the way it was phrased.
No, that was great. That was
Yeah.
a good distinction also
Yeah.
between bullying and general unkindness. Thank
Yeah.
you. I'd love to ask you lots more questions from our kids in Detroit and Hartford and Miami, but we're out of time.
Oh,
So we'll get to those questions next time on the Remote Read Aloud program. But before I end, I want a special thank you to Random House Children's Books and Knopf Books for young readers for allowing us to read an excerpt from Wonder today on behalf of Read to a Child. But most importantly, I want to thank you, RJ, for your time and your wonderful rendition of Wonder. And just thank you so much. That was fantastic.
I really appreciate it, Paul, and thank you for all you do. And really, your organization is wonderful. So,
Thank you.
pun
Thank
intended.
you.
Thank you
Lots
so
of
much.
children in our organization and beyond will be seeing this soon. So thank
All
you
right,
so much.
awesome. Thank you.
All
Take
right.
care. All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.